Okay, continuing where we left off yesterday about buying and selling. So if you need to get something from somebody, you can't use the word lend. You can't measure. You can't use the word weight or size. So you could say, please give me 10 apples, give me 10 this, I'll return it. But you can't say again this whole concept of weight or anything like that. Okay, next is, you're not allowed to, I'll give you an example. They have, let's say in the camps, they have canteens. So kids put money into the canteen before camp starts, and then they buy the nash accordingly. So the camper can, if he wants to get like some nash and Shabbos, he can't say to them, okay, take out from my account. He can just say, give me a bottle of soda, and I'll deal with you after Shabbos. That he could say. But he can't do anything that talks about money or anything like that.
What about today when the kids have these prizes and you give them the tickets? And then
Okay, that's not for now, but according to Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to make a raffle on Shabbos.
When the kids go to my Chabad house in the program.
I said, it's called a raffle.
It is a what? Even though it's only tickets for...
It's a raffle. Well, we'll get, it's not now. It's nothing to do with writing. Okay, next is giving gifts. Are you allowed to give a gift on Shabbos? So the answer is you cannot give a gift on Shabbos because you're transferring ownership on Shabbos. Now, the only time it's allowed, let's say if it's needed to do a mitzvah. Like somebody needs a pair of tzitzis, okay? You say, okay, I'll give you the tzitzis. You can't say I'm giving you a gift. I'm giving it to on the condition you give it back to me or something like that.
Wine for kiddush?
Wine for, again, if it's for a mitzvah, then you're allowed to.
Cake for dessert?
That's not a mitzvah.
So even if they don't use that on Shabbat?
Yes, it's a big problem. I'll give you another problem that people don't even know is a problem. A lot of shuls, when a bar mitzvah kid becomes bar mitzvah, so the rabbi will give the kid a gift. You know, bar mitzvah will give a sefer, a book, whatever. That's what's done in many, many shuls. So in halacha, you're not allowed to do that. Unless if two conditions are met, one of two conditions are met. Either, and I'm not saying the rabbis don't do this, but if they know halacha, they would not do it. They would do it like this. You either give it to the child, and the bar mitzvah boy, and you say, you will acquire, I'm giving it to you now, but you will acquire it after Shabbos. So you tell them clearly, you're not getting ownership now. Here's your gift, but you're not going to acquire it until after Shabbos. That's one way of doing it. Or, before Shabbos begins, let's say I want to give him a gift. So before Shabbos begins, I call you in, I give you the gift, and say, on Friday, I want you to acquire it for him. So because you can acquire something for somebody else, so when I give it to you to acquire for him, so you already acquired it on Friday. So that's not a problem. Either you make him acquire before Shabbos, or you make him acquire it after Shabbos. But just to give a kid a gift on Shabbos is not allowed. What?
So if you say like you'll acquire this after Shabbos, isn't that planning for after Shabbos?
No, that's not called planning. I mean, you could say, I'll see you after Shabbos, I'll see you next week. Planning is when you do something explicitly to save time for Saturday night. That you wouldn't be allowed to do. What?
So you bring 2 bottles of mashka to the shul. You're not going to drink them both, obviously.
But again, you're not giving a gift. Who says you're giving it, changing the ownership of it? Technically, by the way, and this, you find many people do this. They bring food to a kiddush.
Right.
Now, the leftover food, what do they do with?
Right away.
A lot of times, people will just say, keep it in the shul. You'll use it another time. Some people will take home all the leftover food. Okay? It happens a lot.
Yeah.
So technically, let's say a guy brings a bottle of whiskey to shul. Yeah? So, who says he's giving it to the shul? I'm letting you drink from my bottle. In my house, I can give you food to eat. It's not called transferring of ownership. So then, after Shabbos, technically, you can take it home.
So you can bring herrings and all this to a kiddush, as long as everybody's eating from it.
Yeah, because you're giving it, you're not transferring ownership. Again, let me ask you a question. Somebody comes to your house on Shabbos. You give them food to eat. Are you transferring ownership? You're not transferring ownership. They're eating in your house. It's not called I'm selling you the food, or that's not what it is. What?
If they bring in the wine, you don't acquire it after Shabbat if you're not going to use it. You in your wine stand not going to acquire it when they bring it.
When on Shabbos?
Yeah. If somebody brings it up.
No, so they're giving you to drink. Who says they're giving you to, you own the wine?
Even if you don't drink.
Why is there a problem with the cake?
Sorry, that's not a problem.
Why is there a problem with the
Okay.
cake?
If I have guests at my table, yes? Can I serve platters of food? And they're not going to eat from it necessarily. So what's the problem?
And if I go up in the bottle, it's still okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Erev aside for a minute, if I go to somebody's house for lunch on Shabbat, and I bring the lady of the house a plant, not flowers that you might put in water, but a plant that's already potted.
No, plant already potted is worse.
Plant already potted is worse
Is
than
worse.
flowers?
Yeah. Cut flowers are not muksa. A growing plant is muksa.
Okay, so I bring her flowers.
Yeah.
That's transferring on, but am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, it's not so simple. It's not so simple bringing a gift on Shabbos. So if it's something they're going to be eating by the table, you're giving it, to eat at the table. Flowers would technically be a question. So then, the best thing would be, say, here are the flowers, you should acquire it when Shabbos is over. That's the way it works. So what? But they could. They could open it. Okay, next thing is like this. Shh. You can't measure anything. Okay? On Shabbos, part of the rabbinic decree of writing is you're not allowed to do any measuring. Because normally measurement has to do with buying and selling, and has to do with business. So you're not allowed to cut anything to size. Let's say, for instance, you're not allowed to take a ruler and measure this table on Shabbos. According to many, many opinions, if I want to see the size of this room, so I'm not allowed to take out a tape measure and measure on Shabbos. That's forbidden. What happens though, if I count the tiles?
Yes.
I say each tile is 4 feet, let's say, yeah? Or 2 feet, whatever.
It's 5 feet.
Shkoyach. So now, what happens if I want to measure the room by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? So there's 10 tiles, each one's 4 feet, so the room is 40 feet. You're not allowed to do that either. To our opinion, let's say you could do that, but then they change their mind. The bottom line is, it's very questionable in halacha, because you can't do any measuring whatsoever.
Coffee.
What?
I'm making myself a cup of coffee.
So it's like this. On Shabbos, you can't, let's say you want to make a salad. You want to make a dressing for a salad on Shabbos. And normally the recipe calls for 2 ounces of this, whatever it
You can't
is.
measure, you have to eyeball.
In a measuring, you cannot take on Shabbos a measuring cup or a measuring spoon and measure the exact amount. The only time you're allowed to do that is for a mitzvah or if somebody's ill. Let's say, for instance, somebody is on antibiotic, okay, liquid antibiotic, and you have, the syringes. So you put in the syringe, you need to have 5, whatever it is. So then, halacha said, because the person's sick, the chachamim were more lenient, and they allowed that you could measure the medicine to take. Or they say if a little baby, let's say, needs formula, and the formula says a powder, you mix with liquid, and you have to measure it. So again, a baby has a din of a chayla, so then you'd be allowed to. But if you want to make a recipe, you have to oddball it. You can't make an exact measurement of how much oil, how much mayonnaise, whatever. You have to oddball it, approximate it.
How about mikveh?
What? You're allowed to measure a mikvah on Shabbos
Are you?
to see if it's a kosher mikvah. As you don't know if there's a problem. Or I'll give you another example. On Pesach, you have to eat a certain amount of matzah, right? So am I allowed to weigh? You have a little tiny food scale to weigh the matzah on Pesach to see if it's the proper amount. So again, because you're doing it for a mitzvah, so then you would be allowed to. But to measure for recipes, or even, I'll give you another example. let's say somebody needs aluminum foil, okay? You're not allowed to pull out the aluminum foil to a specific size on Shabbos. Okay, that's called measuring. Any type of measuring whatsoever, unless it's for the sake of a mitzvah or another thing. If somebody wants to see how tall they are, okay? So they'll lean against the wall and then they'll, or it could be even a question. Who's taller, me or you? I know I'm shorter. But let's say we want to measure who's taller. So you stand back to back, and that's measuring. It's not for a mitzvah, it's not for somebody who's ill. What?
We can use the scale for matzah, because it's
But not a digital scale.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a mitzvah to eat.
You're measuring it for the mitzvah to see if it's
To
a...
be able to measure what a piece of meat or
No.
the things that you mentioned with regards to putting into the salad, because it's a mitzvah to eat them on Shabbos.
No, it's not. It's not a mitzvah to eat salad on Shabbos.
Well, meat for sure, that's why I brought that up.
No, there's no mitzvah. If somebody doesn't like meat, they don't have to eat meat on Shabbos.
But it says, Vaad Rabbonim Lubavitch.
Chata basar, it says a good thing. It says a lot of things people should do and they don't do. It says in halacha it's appropriate to eat meat and fish. What happens if somebody doesn't like meat?
Yeah.
Then it says they should not eat meat. No mitzvah to eat meat on Shabbos.
Rabbi, what's the common mistake of bringing wines or something when you're invited on Shabbat?
What could be, it's not a mistake. If,
What is that we should be very mindful to avoid?
okay, they shouldn't buy it on Shabbos. They should not buy it on Shabbos. Okay, what do you mean, of course? A guy that's not religious is coming to your house. How do you know on the way to your house you didn't stop by the supermarket and buy a bottle of wine? No, I know. Okay, you don't have to assume they did something wrong. Okay? But I'll give you an example. Sometimes people invite people over to the house, a neighbor. And the neighbor has a tree, a fruit tree, figs. And the guy brings you over a tray of figs. He said, yeah, I just picked it from my garden. Fresh. I just picked it from my garden. So you're not allowed to eat those figs.
So what do you do?
So you explain it to them. Yeah.
You dispose of it?
What happens when somebody brings something not kosher over to your house? You said, I'm sorry, I don't use it or whatever.
We also learned that if the food fell off the tree and Shabbos, we're not supposed to.
Even if it fell by itself. That's a rabbinic zera because you might come to pick it. So that's all, again, forbidden to pick. And
So for not to do...
and another thing, in other words, you want to make sure...
Waste it, what do you do?
What do you do? If you're not allowed to eat it, you can give it to a guy. But you can't measure it, unless if it's sake of a mitzvah, a sake... What?
Wine you can't give to a guy because you're having enough from that, right?
If it's yayin stam. Yeah, if it's not kosher wine, it's questionable if you can give it to him.
Non-kosher wine.
That you can... What?
Non-kosher wine, can you tell them please take it back, I can't take it?
You could tell them I can't use this. And let them do what they want.
Or you just put it in the corner and don't use it and don't offend anybody.
Well, either. It depends. It depends on your relationship with the person. What happens when somebody comes to your house for the Pesach Seder and he brings you a nice bottle of vodka or bourbon or whiskey?
If it's potato vodka, it's good.
I said that's not what we're talking about.
Not alcoholics.
Okay? All the Chabad Russian guys, the guys that have the Russian communities, say Russians drink vodka like we drink juice, water, whatever. So by all this Dorim, they know that the Chabadniks are not going to serve vodka at the Seder because it's chametz. So they come to this, I'm not joking, they come to the Seder with pockets full of vodkas. I'm not joking, this is what they do. They come with vodka and all the Chabad rabbis go crazy from them because you can't. Not only that, now it's chametz owned by a Jew on Pesach, so you can't even benefit from it and you can't do anything and it's chametz and they can't, I understand, but that's not what they're drinking. These guys don't drink potato vodka. And by the way, a guy is on a diet and you want to weigh portions, you're also not allowed to. Also, one of the reasons, a Bais Din is not allowed to give halachic rulings on Shabbos. I don't mean a shaila and halacha, can I do this on Shabbos or not? But in a court case, because normally when you decide a court case, you write down the psak, you write down what the decision is. So then you wouldn't be allowed to do it also. Okay, next thing we'll just start this, and that is, you can't make money from working on Shabbos. I'm just going to say it now, and next time we'll continue it. There's a very big question in halacha. A guy reads the Torah on Shabbos for you, in the shul, and you pay him. $100, $200, whatever, you pay the guy. So basically, he's getting paid for Shabbos.
He's getting paid to practice during the week.
Okay, so the heter over there is, by the way, that's what halacha says. How can you pay a guy to read the Torah on Shabbos? So the answer is, you're not paying him to read the Torah. You're paying him to prepare it. Prepare the Torah.
Waiters and all that.
Okay, so there's another din called Bahavla. Okay, I'll give you a simple example. You rent out an apartment to somebody, monthly, let's say, okay? Now in that month there's 4 Shabbosim, and you're collecting rent for those 4 days also, together with all the other 26 days, whatever, right? So how are you allowed to take rent on Shabbos? So the answer is what's called Bahavla. Bahavla means you're not taking only Shabbos, you're taking for the rest of the week too, so it's absorbed.
Swallowed.
It's absorbed, it's swallowed into that payment, so then it's not taking money for Shabbos.